Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. President Biden and India's Modi reaffirming ties as the two get ready for the G20 summit. Joining us now is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao, who's on the ground in New Delhi, India. Iris, what's the president up to and what are we expecting?
Good evening to you. So President Biden landed here with a Bollywood-style greeting with dances and pop music. And after landing here, he held a 52-minute bilateral meeting with Indian Prime Minister Modi at Modi's house. And during that meeting, the two leaders reaffirmed U.S. and India ties by vowing to support a global semiconductor supply chain and for India to become a permanent member of the UN Security Council. The two leaders also reaffirmed their vows to support human rights and democracy. And Kurt Campbell, a Biden advisor on Indo-Pacific region, said that the warm sentiments between the two leaders really drove their conversation. Let's take a listen.
What I have seen grown over time is an undeniable warmth and confidence between the two leaders, which has basically developed over a series of meetings and shared projects and ambitions over the last several years.
But while the leaders of U.S. and India vow to support freedom and democracy, the leaders of China and Russia have chosen to pull out of this year's G20 summit here at New Delhi. And of course, we heard that President Biden said he was disappointed that China would not show up this year at the summit. But Kurt Campbell did say that actually China's absence could create opportunities for U.S. and India to become even closer. Let's take a listen.
There are undeniable opportunities here for the United States. We fully intend to strengthen and deepen our relationship. We leave it to China in particular to discuss and explain why they are not here.
And at the G20 summit to kick off tomorrow morning, which is just in a few hours, President Biden is expected to call for more investments in developing countries, which is to counter China's influence in these countries through its Belt and Road Initiative. And Biden is also expected to announce a major railway deal that would connect India with the Middle East and Europe. And that move is also expected to counter China's influence in the Middle East. Back to you.
An impeachment inquiry into President Biden is anticipated. This as lawmakers return to session. Top Republicans have all but promised to bring a vote as the president's son Hunter is now facing an imminent indictment. NTD's Melina Wisecup reports from Capitol Hill. So Melina, let's start with Hunter in the indictment there. What have you heard from Senator Chris Coons, specifically an ally of President Biden, on this issue?
Special counsel David Weiss, who's overseeing Hunter Biden's tax evasion and illegal firearms case, intends to indict the president's son by the end of this month. And Senator Chris Coons, a Delaware Democrat, also a longtime ally of President Biden, downplayed the idea that this indictment would carry political ramifications for President Biden come 2024.
Hunter Biden's not on the ballot. Former President Trump is. He's been indicted dozens of times.
This imminent indictment comes at a time when the House has been probing Hunter Biden's business dealings and whether or not President Biden has had a hand in these foreign deals.
We're investigating something that's never been investigated before.
Chairman Comer's committee has his hands on bank records showing tens of millions of dollars in foreign cash flow to the Biden family at the time that President Biden served as vice president. On top of this, they have witness testimony from one of Hunter Biden's former business partners that says that President Biden, when serving as vice president, did meet with their business associates. All of this leading up to now top Republicans, including Speaker McCarthy, calling for an impeachment inquiry vote against the president. And Congressman Matt Gaetz is pressuring Speaker Kevin McCarthy to stick to this plan, threatening to bring a motion to oust him from his speakership position if he chooses to fall through on this plan of the impeachment inquiry vote. While some Republicans like Matt Gaetz are itching for this impeachment inquiry vote to happen, other Republicans say the evidence is lacking.
If they reach that point where they can find evidence of a connection, fine. I think the Republicans will move forward with an impeachment inquiry. Right now, I'm not convinced that that evidence exists, and I'm not supporting an impeachment inquiry.
And right now, it's unclear whether or not they have the votes to do this. Chairman Comer has said they do have the votes. Ultimately, we will have to wait and see how especially those moderates and swing districts are feeling about this issue when they come back to Capitol Hill next week. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
Former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is running for re-election next year, announcing her decision in a post on X earlier today. Her post says, "Now more than ever, our city needs us to advance San Francisco values and further our recovery." The California Democrat has been in Congress since 1987. She served twice as House Speaker, first from 2007 to 2011, then from 2019 until this January. Pelosi is currently 83 years old. The news of her decision to run again comes at a time of heightened attention to questions over age limits of lawmakers due to health incapacity to serve. California Governor Gavin Newsom says he's backing President Biden for a second term. During an interview with MSNBC, the governor urged his Democratic colleagues to move past the idea that the president is not going to run.
President Biden is going to run, and looking forward to getting him reelected. I think there's been so much wallowing in the last few months and hand-wringing in this respect, but we're gearing up for the campaign. We're looking forward to it.
When asked whether he could be a potential candidate if Biden did not run, Newsom said that Vice President Kamala Harris is, quote, naturally the one lined up. He added that he would not challenge Harris if she were to run. Newsom has often said he won't run against Biden in 2024, although there has been much speculation about the California governor potentially throwing his hat in the ring. Lawlessness at everyone's doorstep. A local Democratic Party leader left with a bloody face after getting carjacked right outside of her home in Minneapolis. Shivanthi Sathanandan is a leader in Minnesota's Democratic Party. She posted on her Facebook page saying that she was jumped by 4 armed men at her driveway in front of her children. She later thanked the police officers for their response and vowed to take back the streets from criminals. Sathanandan previously called to dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department after the death of George Floyd back in 2020. According to the police report, her vehicle was eventually found and recovered. Former President Trump is on the campaign trail again amid a series of legal battles, appearing at a rally in South Dakota, accompanied by Governor Kristi Noem. Joining us now to discuss, we have Jenny Beth Martin, co-founder of the Tea Party Patriots. Jenny Beth Martin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, Jenny Beth, former President Trump in South Dakota this evening, being received by the popular governor there of South Dakota, Kristi Noem. What might the endorsement of Noem mean for the former president, especially when it comes to the, all so coveted suburban women vote, if you will?
Well, I think that it is a very useful and helpful endorsement for him. She is a woman who other women and other moms from around the country can look at and relate to. And she's saying, I stand with this man, President Trump, former President Trump, and I endorse him to be president again. And I'm not afraid to do that. And I think he will benefit America. He will benefit children, and he will be good for my own state, but for the entire country. And I'm hopeful that other women who maybe think negative things about Trump, whatever it might be, might look to this and to other women who are willing to stand up for Trump and say, maybe he's not so bad. Maybe he's got some mean tweets, but my household was doing a lot better off under him than what's going on right now. And what we're seeing from the Biden administration with the tyranny that we have right now, that is the absolute meanest and most evil thing I can think of, much worse than a few mean tweets, by the way.
We're also seeing what appears to be some interest in former Governor Nikki Haley, an uptick in the polls after the debate for her. Do you see a possibility, if Trump does win the GOP nomination, for a VP pick such as Nikki Haley or Kristi Noem?
I think that it is possible. I think that he also will wind up looking at some of the swing states to determine if there is a politician in the swing states that have more electoral votes that he might want to pick as a VP pick, because it would help in those swing states. And strategically thinking, he's got to think about, does it help with the demographics, or does it help with the electoral vote as he's making those decisions? Plus, who do I want to be my vice president? Who would I want to have that position for 4 years?
Now, when it comes to a head-to-head matchup against President Biden, a lot of the GOP hopefuls have been trying to sell themselves that Trump would not fare well against President Biden in a general. CNN alerting their viewers to the contrary. Let's play that tape.
Donald Trump 47%, Joe Biden 46%. They're basically in a statistical tie. But what I will note was there was not a single poll conducted by CNN during the entire 2020 cycle in which Donald Trump got a higher share of the vote than Joe Biden did. So this is a vastly different picture from what we saw 4 years ago.
Jenny Beth, your reaction?
Well, the American public and the American voters have now lived under Joe Biden for 3 years as president, and they've seen that America is not better off, that our economy is suffering, that inflation is harming every single house in this country. The price of goods, the price to buy anything costs more money, and wages just simply cannot keep up with that. And if you increase wages, prices are going to wind up going up again. And I think that they're looking back and going, well, which would be better for me and my family and my household, and looking at the two. And I think that's why there's such a difference right now. Before, you had theoretical President Biden. Now you have the actual record of Biden versus Trump. And I think people are saying, I preferred the record and I preferred my life under Trump better than Biden.
Now, you as a native Georgian, just switching gears a little bit here, curious your perspective when you see your home state not only trying the former president, but a sweeping RICO case. News breaking today that the grand jury down there wanted to go after more high-profile Republicans than were actually charged. Senator Lindsey Graham, for instance, David Perdue, former senator, and Kelly Loeffler.
Yeah, what we're seeing out of Fulton County, Georgia is absolute, total, 100% tyranny, and it needs to stop. The governor has the constitutional power from the Georgia Constitution to call a special session. The state legislature has the ability to call a special session as well. The legislature has the constitutional power of the purse, and they also have the power to impeach if an investigation leads to an impeachment. I think all of those powers need to be exercised right now to put a check and balance to this out of control, tyrannical district attorney.
Jenny Beth Martin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.